We all know the great monsters of Middle-earth, dragons that set the sky aflame, Balrogs wreathed in fire and shadow, and spiders lurking in the dark places of the world. These are the creatures that haunt Tolkien's legends. But what if we told you some of the deadliest beings in Middle-earth were far older, far stranger, and far more terrifying than anything seen in the films? That beneath the wars of Elves and Men, below even the dominion of Sauron and Morgoth, there existed horrors so ancient they were never given names? Today we descend into the deepest shadows of Tolkien's world to rank the deadliest creatures in Middle-earth, some forged for war, some born of hunger, and some that should never have existed at all. Welcome back to the channel. Let's get started with the first creature on our list.
What is this place?
Our journey begins with Shelob, the giant venomous spider that haunted the pass of Cirith Ungol. Although Shelob might not seem as imposing as some of the other creatures on this list, her intelligence and terrifying power shouldn't be underestimated. Shelob was ancient and cunning, with a lethal venom that could incapacitate even the bravest of heroes. Just ask Frodo Baggins. Shelob was far more than a giant spider lurking in the dark. She was an ancient evil, a survivor from the First Age, descended from Ungoliant, whose hunger once devoured the light of the two trees. Long before Frodo reached Cirith Ungol, Shelob had claimed that pass as her domain, feeding not only on flesh, but on fear itself.
Looks like old Shelob's been having a bit of fun. This fellow ain't dead.
Orcs feared her, Sauron tolerated her, and even he did not command her. Shelob hunted with patience and intelligence. Her webs were instruments of terror, trapping victims so her venom could leave them suspended between life and death. She did not serve darkness for power or conquest. She endured for hunger alone, proof that some evils in Middle-earth were never meant to rule, only to wait in the shadows.
Filth.
Next on the list, let's talk about some of Morgoth and Sauron's more common minions, trolls and wargs. While these creatures are no match for the likes of dragons or Balrogs, they are still formidable foes in their own right. Trolls, towering giants of stone and flesh, were bred by Morgoth as weapons of war. They were immensely strong, capable of overwhelming entire armies with their brute force. But despite their size and power, they were slow, clumsy, and vulnerable to sunlight, which turned them to stone.
Send out your Warg riders.
Wargs, on the other hand, were intelligent and cunning, often used as steeds by orcs. While they were agile and lethal in packs, they lacked the individual power of something like a dragon or Balrog. Still, in the right environment, they were terrifying. Though both trolls and wargs were deadly, they ultimately fall behind the more supernatural forces of Middle-earth. Moving up the list, we come to the mighty dragons. Morgoth's greatest creations were bred for one purpose: destruction. Dragons were not only powerful, but incredibly intelligent. Glaurung, the father of dragons, was the first of his kind, and he brought terror to the First Age. Later, Smaug became the most famous dragon of the Third Age, though he was less powerful than some of the older ones. Dragons like Ancalagon the Black were so powerful that they could level entire armies and cities. But while dragons were formidable and could easily ravage a town or army, their power was more physical and destructive than the deeper, darker threats we'll encounter later. Dragons could be defeated through cleverness, like Bilbo did with Smaug, showing that their power, though immense, wasn't without its weaknesses. Now we're starting to approach the top tier of terror. The Balrogs were Maiar, Lesser Ainur, twisted by Morgoth into instruments of destruction. These creatures were made of fire and shadow, wielding whips of flame and capable of causing immense destruction. Their most iconic appearance comes in The Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf faces off with the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
You shall not pass!
Balrog of Moria was one of the most powerful creatures in Middle-earth at the time, but while their physical strength and magical abilities were overwhelming, they were still mortal creatures, capable of being defeated. Gandalf's victory over the Balrog was a hard-fought battle, and it showcased both the Balrog's might and its vulnerabilities. But when it comes to raw power, Balrogs are right up there with the most terrifying creatures in Tolkien's world. If you enjoy the video so far, don't forget to drop a like. But even the Balrogs, creatures of fire and shadow, were ultimately weapons, instruments of terror unleashed by a greater will. And that distinction brings us to a far more dangerous being. Sauron was not merely a monster of destruction, he was something far more calculating. Like the Balrogs, he was a Maya, a primordial spirit of immense power, but where they embodied chaos and fury, Sauron perfected domination. He did not simply kill, he corrupted, deceived, and controlled. Entire kingdoms fell not to his strength, but to his influence. Numenor, the greatest civilization of men, collapsed under his manipulation.
It began with the forging of the Great Rings.
The Rings of Power bound rulers, warriors, and sorcerers to his design. Even in defeat, his will endured, his presence reshaping Middle-earth across ages. Unlike the Balrogs, Sauron's deadliness was not confined to the battlefield. His true power lay in patience, strategy, and the slow, irreversible spread of shadow. And yet, even Sauron was not the most terrifying force on this list.
Spiders, Gandalf. Giant ones. Some kind of spawn of Ungoliant. Or I'm not a wizard. I followed their trail.
Before Shelob, there was Ungoliant, a creature so ancient and powerful that her very hunger could bring the world to its knees. Ungoliant was a dark spirit who took the form of a giant spider and aided Morgoth in destroying the two trees of Valinor. She consumed light itself, devouring the very essence of the trees, leaving the world in darkness. Her appetite for destruction was insatiable, and she even attempted to devour Morgoth himself after helping him in his dark deeds. Though she was ultimately driven off, Ungoliant's immense power and the devastation she wrought make her one of the most terrifying creatures ever to exist in Middle-earth. Could she have been stronger than Morgoth? It's a tantalizing question, but given her destructive capacity and raw hunger for darkness, she certainly ranks higher than most of Morgoth's other creations.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
Deep beneath the roots of Middle-earth, far below stone, memory, and history, there are things that were never meant to be known. Tolkien calls them the Nameless Things, not servants of Morgoth, not soldiers of darkness, but ancient presences that existed before the world had shape or order. They did not rise from corruption, they predated it. Gandalf himself, who faced Balrogs and walked the secret ways of the earth, refuses to speak of them. That silence is telling. These beings lay beyond the reckoning of elves and men, dwelling in the deepest foundations of Arda, where even Morgoth's dominion did not begin, but merely passed over. Their power is never measured, never tested, only implied. And in Tolkien's world, implication is often more terrifying than proof. If Morgoth poured his malice into creation, the Nameless Things may have existed before malice had a name. Remnants of a world unfinished, untouched by light, law, or design. Finally, we reach the pinnacle of terror, Morgoth himself. Morgoth was not just a Dark Lord, he was the first of the Valar, the greatest of the Ainur. His might surpassed all others, and he was capable of shaping the world with his will. Morgoth created dragons, Balrogs, orcs, and countless other creatures to serve his dark purposes. He corrupted the world to his vision, twisting its beauty into a dark reflection of his own desires. Morgoth was not merely a tyrant or a conqueror, he was a fallen god. As the greatest of the Ainur, his power once rivaled the Valar themselves, and he poured that strength into the very substance of Arda, corrupting the world at its core. Every dragon, Balrog, and shadow of evil carried his imprint. Though he grew weaker with each age, his malice became permanent, woven into Middle-earth itself. Though Morgoth was eventually defeated and cast into the void, his legacy lived on through his creations. His power was unmatched, and for much of the First Age, he was the true terror of Middle-earth. So, who was truly the most terrifying? From the cunning Shelob to the ancient power of Morgoth, the creatures of Middle-earth span a vast array of power and fear. Whether it was the physical might of the dragons, the fiery wrath of the Balrogs, or the terrifying unknown of the Nameless Things, Middle-earth was home to some of the most fearsome beings ever to exist. If you like this kind of video, join the channel and leave a like for more content like this. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.